President Xi told you during your meeting that perhaps Russian President Vladimir Putin would come to regret invading Ukraine. Did he say that to you?
No, he never said that.
The Financial Times reported that President Xi told President Trump that President Putin may end up regretting his invasion of Ukraine. Could you confirm this?
Chinese side has already issued a statement regarding the meeting between the leaders of China and the U.S. The information you mentioned is inconsistent with facts and is purely fabricated.
Fresh controversy is erupting after claims surfaced that the UK may have tried to disrupt the Putin-Xi summit through a dramatic Xi-Trump leak. China has reacted furiously to the reports, flatly rejecting any suggestion that Xi Jinping discussed Vladimir Putin negatively with Donald Trump. Did Donald Trump get drawn into a larger geopolitical game as Beijing crushes claims that she privately criticized Putin behind closed doors? Did Xi Jinping really warn Trump that Putin would regret the Ukraine war, or was the explosive report completely fabricated? China has rejected reports claiming that Xi Jinping privately discussed Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine with the US president. On May 19, Beijing dismissed allegations that she told Donald Trump Putin would eventually regret invading Ukraine. The claims first appeared in a Financial Times report covering the recent summit between Xi Jinping and Donald Trump. According to the Foot report, she allegedly used unusually harsh language while discussing Russia's ongoing war against Ukraine. China's foreign ministry strongly pushed back against the allegations through an official social media statement released on May 19. Beijing described the Financial Times report as completely false and rejected the claims surrounding Xi's alleged remarks. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump also denied reports suggesting she had made critical comments regarding Vladimir Putin.
Words that President Xi told you during your meeting that perhaps Russian President Vladimir Putin would come to regret invading Ukraine. Did he say that to you?
No, he never said that.
During their meeting, President Xi Jinping and President Donald Trump have reportedly exchanged views on the regulation of artificial intelligence and agreed to engage in dialogue and cooperation. Could you elaborate on their agreement?
As two major players in the field of artificial intelligence, China and the U.S. should work together to promote the development and governance of artificial intelligence so as to ensure that it better serves the progress of human civilization and the common well-being of the international community. During President Trump's visit to China, the two leaders held constructive discussions on artificial intelligence and agreed to launch an intergovernmental dialogue in this regard.
A drone attacked supporting infrastructure at the Baraka nuclear power plant in the United Arab Emirates. What is China's position on strikes targeting peaceful nuclear energy?
China is deeply concerned about the attack on the facilities of the UAE nuclear power plant and opposes armed attacks on nuclear facilities of peaceful use. China always maintained that the sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity of all countries in the Middle East and the Gulf region should be fully respected, and that civilians and non-military targets should be protected. What is pressing now is to immediately implement a comprehensive ceasefire to stop the fighting and prevent the conflict from spreading further.
The 79th World Health Assembly has once again decided not to include the so-called Taiwan-related motion on its agenda. What's China's comment?
The DPP authorities' obstinate adherence to their Taiwan independent separatist stance is doomed to failure. Their political farce of making provocations to seek independence must come to an end. China will ultimately achieve complete reunification, and Taiwan will surely return to the embrace of the motherland.
Ukrainian authorities stated yesterday that a Russian drone struck a Chinese cargo ship in the Black Sea. Given that this attack occurred just one day before President Putin's visit to China, what is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs' comment on this matter?
We have noted the relevant reports. Based on the information currently available, the ship in question is registered in the Marshall Islands and carries Chinese crew members. The Chinese embassy in Ukraine has contacted the Chinese crew members and confirmed that there were no casualties. Regarding the Ukraine crisis, China's position has been consistent and clear that dialogue and negotiation are the only way to resolve the crisis.
The Financial Times reported that President Xi told President Trump that President Putin may end up regretting his invasion of Ukraine. Could you confirm this?
The Chinese side has already issued a statement regarding the meeting between the leaders of China and the U.S. The information you mentioned is inconsistent with facts and is purely fabricated.
The report further claimed that Xi's private comments about Putin reportedly went much further than the discussions he previously held with former U.S. President Joe Biden regarding Russia and Ukraine. According to the Financial Times, she allegedly warned Trump that Putin's strategic gamble in Ukraine could eventually backfire on Russia and potentially reshape the global balance of power in unpredictable ways. The report also claimed that she had never personally offered such a direct assessment of Putin himself during his earlier talks with Joe Biden, making the reported comments especially striking. Interestingly, the official White House fact sheet released after the Trump-Xi meetings reportedly made no mention whatsoever of Ukraine, Vladimir Putin, or the sensitive private exchanges described in the report. The Financial Times also claimed that Donald Trump proposed the idea of a potential U.S.-China-Russia alignment against the International Criminal Court during discussions with Xi in Beijing. The controversy erupted shortly before Xi Jinping's closely watched summit meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The Russia-China summit also came only days after Xi Jinping's recent high-profile meeting with Donald Trump in Beijing. Meanwhile, fresh reports have also revealed the Chinese president's alleged behind-the-scenes role in ongoing US-Iran negotiations. An Iranian envoy, Abdolreza Rahmani Fazli, said on May 19 that China helped open back-channel contacts for talks between the United States and Iran. Fazli stated that China and Pakistan both worked behind the scenes to ease tensions between Washington and Tehran. According to him, Beijing opposed what it described as U.S. tension-making activities in the Strait of Hormuz. He added that China criticized the United States for disrupting global trade and said Beijing wanted to help secure shipping routes through the strait. These comments come as the Strait of Hormuz crisis continues to directly affect China's economic interests, including energy and trade flows. U.S. President Donald Trump was expected to discuss the Iran situation with Chinese President Xi Jinping during his recent visit to China. Donald Trump arrived in Beijing hoping China could help the United States address tensions with Iran and the growing crisis around passage through the Strait of Hormuz. Expectations were high that Xi Jinping might use Beijing's leverage over Tehran to push Iran toward accepting U.S. terms or at least to reduce actions that threaten commercial shipping through Hormuz. However, post-meeting readouts from both Washington and Beijing suggested the talks did not produce a meaningful shift in China's position on Iran or a clear new commitment to U.S. demands. China remains one of Iran's closest diplomatic partners and its largest oil customer, giving Beijing economic and strategic reasons to avoid measures that could be seen as directly confronting Tehran. After his first round of talks with Xi, Trump publicly claimed the Chinese leader offered to help resolve the conflict, framing the visit as potentially productive on the Iran question. Later, Secretary of State Marco Rubio told NBC that, according to his account, the United States had not formally asked China to provide specific assistance, complicating the administration's messaging. The White House said both sides agreed the Strait of Hormuz must remain open and that Iran should not acquire nuclear weapons, presenting those points as common ground from the meetings. However, China's statement about keeping Hormuz open could also be read as including opposition to external measures such as a U.S. blockade, leaving room for differing interpretations. She reportedly opposed any militarization of the strait or the imposition of tolls on shipping, emphasizing Beijing's preference for freedom of navigation without added security measures. Despite the talks, Beijing appeared to stick to its existing position on the conflict, reiterating long-standing principles without signaling a change in policy toward Iran. China had earlier called for normal passage through the Strait of Hormuz, language that emphasizes commercial transit but does not equate to taking sides in regional coercion. Notably, China's foreign ministry readout made no mention of support for shipping tolls or enforcement measures that would back a U.S. blockade, indicating caution in its public posture. Trump himself acknowledged limits to Xi's influence over Iran, noting in comments that the Chinese leader was unlikely to apply forceful pressure on Tehran. "He's not coming in with guns," Trump said when asked whether she could compel Iran to change course, underlining an understanding of Beijing's constraints. Hours later, China's foreign ministry reiterated that Beijing's position is very clear, signaling continuity and an unwillingness to adopt dramatic new steps for Washington. That statement strongly suggested China had no plans to alter its stance at Washington's behest, reinforcing perceptions of diplomatic distance on the Iran issue. The developments fueled speculation that China had effectively snubbed U.S. expectations by offering vague support for open navigation, but stopping short of concrete action against Iran. All this unfolded even before Trump's high-stakes Beijing visit had officially concluded, leaving key questions about the trip's impact on Iran and Hormuz unresolved.